right? So principle 3, moving through. Principle 3. And I'm no longer talking about class 4, principle 3. I just say, let's just talk about the principles and not worry about what session it is. So I hope you're cool with that. Okay, so I work toward presence in my own body. So when you've been through trauma, and actually when you are in a human body, which I think everyone here has, a human body, right, so far? And James, did you get a handout? You got a handout? Great. So it's easy for us to, like we forget our breath, forget our bodies. And we get really busy in our heads. And I know you guys are all grad students, right? So that's easy to say that it's probably like many of you have that issue that you just discount your bodies, get in this point in the semester, or you have the bar exam coming up suddenly, or a licensure exam or applications, and you start really, you have an exam too coming up probably after graduation, right? Yeah, so everybody, even yoga teachers can get so into their heads about teaching that they forget they have bodies. So we work toward presence in our own body instead of saying like, I am present in my body. We acknowledge that that actually takes some work. So it's a process of working toward presence. And as a teacher, you model, teach, and effectively deliver that by working on it yourself. So when we go through a challenge, trauma, and even the stressors of daily life, it can be easy to tune out and check out of our bodies. So essentially, we leave ourselves. And I've been told there's an African proverb that says, never leave yourself, right? That's when you get in trouble. And I think of the times when I've made poor decisions, and it's either been because I've really left myself in terms of just really checking out, or I've used a substance, right, that helped me check out. But when I've made really bad decisions, I didn't consult my body. I ignored a gut instinct, or I had drank enough that I couldn't pay attention to a gut instinct, right? So being present in your body is another really powerful tool for taking care of yourself and making good decisions. So we want to be in there, right? You think back to anything you've ever done in your life that was like a bad idea, I bet you didn't listen right here. Like great decisions come from your gut, from your heart, and from your mind, all working together. And you can't make them all from your head. You definitely can't make them all from your heart. And you don't always just go on gut, right? Like the gut gives you information, but it doesn't have the whole story. It's your gut response. So we want to use all three, but we want to have access to all three too, right? So other ways to check out are using drugs, distracting habits. Like you can gamble, you can shop, even people get involved in sexual relationships just to check out of their lives. There's lots of ways to check out, right? And so what we want to do is to check back in so we can make really good decisions for our whole selves and our community and our relationships. I like the way this is worded for kids. I can connect with my body. So it's good. And the yogis in service, teachers that are working with the refugees over on the west side of Buffalo, said this is really important for them, that a lot of the kids, you know, and they've come from war and other situations, they've really checked out of their bodies. So they help them really say, I can connect with my body again and just breathe and be in my body. Good. So you just notice. You notice if you're there. Like, what does it feel like to be in my body? Do you remember right now, do you remember that you have feet? It's way down at the end of your legs. And at the end of your feet, there's toes, right? There's just way down there, right? And you just don't think about them at all. I have had 3 graduate students on my team, and I've been here 14 years, so it's over the many years, and I usually have about 8 people on my team that have stubbed their toes and not known in their house where the blood was coming from. I'm like, you forgot you had feet. One was a vegetarian, so she accused her husband of bringing meat into the house and like dripping it. And she's like, oh, it's my own foot. True story. She grew up in a yoga institute, so I don't know how that happened. I'm like, that's how stressful doc studies are. So that this is a practice, and even the best yogis check out of their bodies, so they didn't know that their toe was bleeding and get in a fight with their husband about meat, right? Good. Am I going like the wrong way? There. So I want asana. In the asana practice, I'm just going to say that part. I don't know if it's out of order. Yeah, in the asana practice or in the yoga pose practice, so this is really easy to do because it's with what you do teaching. You're always just bringing people to their bodies. So a good yoga teacher will not just call the pose. So you won't say, mountain pose. You will say mountain pose so people know what they're doing, but then what? What happens? And you can get into, in Baptiste training, it's the principles of true north alignment. All the different schools of yoga have different ways and techniques for getting you back in your body, but really bringing you to the correct alignment in your body. So paying attention to the four corners of your feet, bringing your inner ankles down and back, outer ankles down. Right? Lighting up your legs, skin, muscle, bone, pelvic floor in, tailbone down, belly in, chest open, right? I like to bring armpits in because that brings your shoulders back and down. Chest open, crown of your head up, right? And really landing people back in their bodies. Lighting up your fingers, lighting up your feet, right? So bringing everybody constantly back to their bodies. Sometimes if I've been busy and when I travel, I will often run more than I do yoga because I want to see the town, right? And so like Washington, D.C., it's a beautiful day. Yoga's great, but you could run to all the monuments in just an hour and see many things, so I'll go for a run. I'll get home from a trip like that and do yoga, and I actually realize that I missed my body. Right? Because in running, I feel it, right? I feel my feet on the pavement, but it's a different kind of presence in your body. So yoga, with the instructions of the teacher too, can really bring you to your body. Then in the mindful practice, you can do a technique like a progressive relaxation where they tense and soften each body part, and that kind of shows you what's tension and what it is not. Or a body scan, which we've done a lot in this class. I just take you through your whole body and notice and soften and notice and soften and notice and soften, right? Just taking you through. And you'll, like even just now, if you just paid attention to notice your shoulders and release, right? Just the noticing, like catch yourself, right? And softening. And then in informal, just noticing when you're more in tune with your body and when you check out. Right? The other day I was trying to get to teach a yoga class, and I was here. I taught at 6, so it was maybe 5:10. Like, I'm not going to get to the studio in time. There's going to be traffic on Harlem Road, and I was like this, driving. And then I thought, no matter how long it takes me to get there, it's going to take me that long to get there. And so me going like this won't make me faster. Like, I'm literally thinking this whole through while I'm driving. So I started breathing slowly, and then soften my shoulders. And I'm like, I'm just going to get there when I get there. And I can show up tense and agitated, or I can show up. And I got there at 5:26, so I think it took me 16 minutes or something. So it was all for no reason, right? So I would have been agitated and tense for that whole drive for no reason. And in fact, and let's say I would have been late, it still would have been fine for me to not be tense, right? So your inquiry is, how do we know when we're present or not present in our bodies, and what does that feel like? So how do you know when you've checked out? Does anybody have a sense here, like when they know when they've checked out, or is it something that you don't pay attention to, or?
I feel like whenever I just really want to sleep and like not deal with anything. Like when I know I have a ton of stuff to do and I just want to sleep instead.
So you're almost like, that's a dorsal dive.
Yeah.
So that's like the vagus nerve. I have a similar sleep reaction to stress. My husband we get in an argument and I'm like, well, I think we should just sleep. I start like, not even get like my eyes get closing. I'm like, I was thinking if we just slept for a while, like, right? So you get all this stress and then you just want to Yeah, so like that's and what it really is your body, actually it's fight, flight, and then there's like freeze and almost checking out. It's like the checkout response to.
Yeah, and it's very like childlike. Like I still feel myself, or maybe other people will tell me I get cranky and like I need a nap.
You need a nap.
I need a nap. Yeah.
And so actually kind of getting back into your body and alert, like walking around, checking in, even sun salutations could kick you out of that. It's a physical thing.
Yeah.
And it's hard because when it's happening, you buy into it. You're like, you agree with yourself. I just need a nap. I've been there a lot. I've been there recently. Good. That's a good example. So, and your goal is to really be in inquiry, like, what is it that I do and when do I check out? Another time when I get really, really, really anxious, it's like I can't even feel my body at all. And I have to, it's like I'm almost nearly like I'm floating, right? And then I have to breathe and on purpose get back in my body. And it can be if there's a very intense interpersonal interaction or a very, very large group of people that I have to speak in front of. And then it's like my body just doesn't exist. Like my hands feel like giant mittens, right? So none of you guys have ever felt that way? Oh, okay.
Sometimes when I'm like, my mind is just going and going and going, and I'm noticing it's hard for me to connect with my breath, I just touch something, and then I connect with that, and then I'm able to just slow everything down.
So Janelle just said, because the mic can't hear you, that if her mind gets going and going and going, she can't even touch something to get herself to check back in. And that's actually, so that is going to be a later principle of that. Physicalness can help you with emotion regulation. So it's like a two-step process. So you're actually in the advanced step. So the first step is I could actually be present. So after trauma, sometimes we don't even have a sense we could be present in our own bodies. And so that's step one. And then step two is, in fact, not only can I be present, I can be safe here, and being present can help calm me down. So the first part when you've gone through trauma is you kind of think, I can't even be here. Like, this isn't even a safe place for me to be. I in no way am going to be in my body, right? And so we really work toward very healthy ways of being present in our bodies. I even have patients that have checked out for so long that they'll try to be in their bodies in intense and overcompensating ways, like cutting themselves, right? Or working out so hard until they finally feel themselves. Or not eating so that the starvation, they can feel that, right? Or eating so much that they feel that. So a really intense relationship with the body just to feel, right? And when we could do a nice, healthy yoga practice and be in our bodies. And it takes time, right? Like probably there can be many sessions until you get there, but it's a practice. Good. So inquiry, I'm going to talk about this a lot coming up, but I want you to start thinking about comfort zones and safety zones. But when you've gone through trauma, you think they're the same, that there's one line, and you're either comfortable or you cross the line and you're completely unsafe. So once, and there's just that one line. Does that make sense? So you're like, I'm good or I'm not good. Actually, I'm gonna scroll way ahead and come back because I think I just want to talk about it now. So don't get car sick. There it is. Okay, are you okay? I scrolled a lot right there. So here it is. So you have your comfort zone. We all have a comfort zone, and it's your routine. It's the stuff you do. Your comfort zone could even be your room is a mess. And that's your comfort zone. Oh, I just looked at Janelle inadvertently. I didn't do that on purpose. Now I've gone and said it. I think my husband lives in that comfort zone. My mom used to do that. And if you clean the house, like, I had everything. Where is it now? You know. But we have our ways of being that are just comfortable, that we've done it for a long time. Even if you're a little kid, you have them. And then you have the stuff that's outside of your comfort zone. And they're like, what's interesting is, so when you've gone through trauma, you collapse You like collapse this down, and as if there's two zones. There's either your safe zone or your unsafe zone, and that's it, right? And the truth is that you have your comfort zone, and then you have this space that's uncomfortable, and you're still totally safe, right? But especially if we've been through trauma, our brain will say, you're uncomfortable, you are not okay, things are not okay, you are in danger, and then what happens? My hands start sweating, my heart rate goes up, my breath is short, I'm not thinking, I'm like, you are not okay, you are not okay, right? And then I'm like, ah, and whatever we do when we're stressed, it might be that I pass out, I'm really need to take a nap right now, or I'm dissociating, like I'm not in my body. Because I've decided as soon as I'm not comfortable, I didn't decide it on purpose, my body is making decisions for me, right? And so what we do in yoga practice is we get that once I go out of my comfort zone and get uncomfortable, maybe trying a pose or breathing deeper than I've let myself breathe in a while, or considering something I haven't let myself consider in a while, trying something I haven't tried, that there is this really safe place that's a little uncomfortable where I can grow. And if you stay in your comfort zone for the rest of your life, you can pretty much be 100% certain you will not grow. Right? And there's somebody who lives near me that we worry about because she's gotten herself so that she doesn't even leave her house ever. Like I've lived there now 5 years and I've never seen her go grocery shopping. Whether it's delivered in the middle of the night but she's gotten herself into such a small comfort zone that she doesn't leave her house, right? We call it agoraphobia, but she's stuck there. And we can kind of shrink ourselves into these little comfort zones, and then people need to act a certain way, and we need a certain thing and a certain list of demands for us, right, to be okay. We become inflexible, rigid, sometimes over-controlling, manipulating. It's not associated with a lot of great things. It's comfortable because it's your comfort zone. Does that make sense? So we want to always be working on growth because it increases our flexibility. We're more adaptive. We're easier to be with. We can definitely go to more restaurants, more countries, more states. We can think of better and bigger and different and diverse ideas, right? Like we get creative outside of our comfort zone. So we start practicing this place in the growth zone, and we realize that even though we're uncomfortable, we're also safe, right? And that we're unsafe is somewhere else. And we want to practice right on just outside of our comfort zone. And then we stretch that and we get bigger. Right? Does that make sense? So that the arrow here is really showing us we want to like live in there. Not all the time, and we'll go over other principles. Okay, I'm going to scroll again back to where we were. So here we are. So do you guys get that comfort zone now? Okay. So when we've been stressed or traumatized, they feel like the same thing. Uncomfortable feels like not okay. So we want to work toward being that. And so in the inquiry, in the kind of talking and questioning and what we're living, we want to have a sense of like what it's like to really be present or not present, and what does it feel like? Do we leave ourselves the minute we get out of our comfort zone? Or can we stretch and stay present even though we're getting uncomfortable? So you actually want, in a yoga class, to create some poses, some opportunities to get uncomfortable, right? And so we're not talking about an entirely yin or restorative class. That's a little different. But even for me, a yin class is like panic, uncomfortable. If I've got a lot to do, I'm like, oh my God, lay around for 45 minutes, like breathing and relaxing? No way, right? That would make me crazy. So it kind of depends on where your comfort zone is. For some of us, a comfort zone, like, I'll run 10 miles, but I am not laying around for 20 minutes, like, right? So that would be where I would have growth. Does that make sense? And can you stay present? Like for me, relaxation, that's like where I want to check out and just fall asleep instead of staying present, active, and attending to my own thoughts and feelings. Good. Let's see if I'm going the right way. Special notes. So when individual experiences trauma, a disconnection between the mind and body can occur, making this overwhelming to come back in. So you have to go slow, right? And you don't have to go slow. You have to go at the pace that is right for each person that you're working with. So it might feel slow to you, it might feel fast to you. So it's really at their pace. So I guess a description word is not even a good idea. They have to go, we want to keep them moving into their growth zone.